Trucking accidents in Texas are extremely common. In fact, in 2020, we had over 7,300 trucking accidents in Texas. Trucking accident injuries change lives many times because they're extremely serious. And the reason these injuries can be extremely serious is trucks weigh a ton, literally tons. And as a result of being big and heavy, the force involved in an accident involving a truck can be much greater than the force involved in your typical auto accident. In a trucking accident, it's extremely important to act fast and contact an attorney. And here's the reason why. First of all, the trucking company has a team of lawyers that when there's an accident, they send them out to the scene of the accident to document the evidence favorable to the trucking company. But more important, for the person who's injured in a trucking accident, there's evidence you need to have a team make sure is maintained. For example, you want to make sure you hire a lawyer and they put the trucking company on notice not to lose certain evidence. That evidence would include the driver's drug test, the data on the truck. There's a black box on the truck that in many cases we will actually download. There's also a very important file called a driver qualification file that trucking companies don't have to keep indefinitely. So in a trucking accident case, it's very important you hire a lawyer who knows how to force the trucking company not to destroy the important evidence that will help you with your case, because otherwise, in many instances, you'll hear that evidence was lost and not properly maintained. Truck drivers are held to a higher standard than your average automobile driver, and that's because they have a commercial motor vehicle license. The reason they have a commercial motor vehicle license is because they're operating much heavier, more dangerous machinery than your average automobile. And as part of having that commercial motor vehicle license, truck drivers receive a whole bunch of additional safety training. And along with that additional safety training comes this higher standard of care that truck drivers are responsible. In a truck accident case, there's a number of parties that can be held responsible. There's the obvious party, which is the trucking company and the truck driver. But a good trucking lawyer will explore other avenues of compensation because the trucking company and the truck driver may not have adequate insurance for a lot of injuries. For example, there may have been an outsourcing of the responsibility to qualify the driver, to go through the steps necessary to make sure the trucking company should have even hired that driver in the first place. So there may be a third-party hiring company that needs to be sued. There also may be a shipper. The shipper may be different than the company carrying the goods or the driver driving the goods. And that shipper may have non-delegable duties, meaning responsibilities that they can't just shift off onto someone else. And that may provide additional monies or insurance for the injuries. There also may be other instances in a trucking case where there's additional parties, such as many times the people who actually loaded the truck improperly loaded the truck, and that may have something to do with why the accident occurred. If you've been involved in an accident caused by a negligent truck driver or trucking company, or both, you're entitled to a number of different damages. You're entitled to the most basic thing, such as your medical care in the past and what you may need in the future for the rest of your life. You're also entitled to reimbursement of time you missed from work as a result of the accident, and the time you may miss from work or the amount less you may earn because you can't do the same type of work going into the future. You'd also be entitled to mental anguish, pain and suffering, and incapacity as a result of the trucking accident. I've been practicing law for over 25 years, and from the beginning I've been handling cases involving trucking accidents. It's also not just one type of trucking accident. We handle cases involving trucking accidents where there's a wide right turn. That's a very common situation that causes an accident. We've handled lane change cases. We've handled cases where someone was rear-ended. Recently, I handled a case involving a driver that fell asleep. So we handle all sorts of trucking accidents. Our current and past clients would say that we care about them, that we've worked hard on their case, no stone unturned, but really I would urge people to go look at our reviews and see what our clients say, because they really speak for themselves. And on our website, we also have some testimonials if you want to watch a video and hear from someone in person. At Schechter, Schaefer & Harris, client communication is our #1 metric. In fact, we have a policy that every client will be spoken to every month. And at the beginning of a case, I'll tell you, we're probably speaking to you every day. We make sure that the attorneys and the case managers are calling the clients back. The attorneys and case managers are also provided a list every single week of clients they haven't spoken to in the last 3 weeks. So it's crucial that we talk to the clients to make sure their medical care stays on track, to make sure that their case development is moving forward, and most importantly, the clients want to hear from us. So we want to be talking to them and keeping them informed what's going on with their case so they're comfortable with the process. Here at Schechter, Schaefer & Harris, we're a medium-sized firm, and that has advantages. If we were really, really large, you would have all sorts of red tape and all sorts of levels of people you probably had to deal with to get your case resolved. On the other hand, if we were a sole practitioner with 1 or 2 legal assistants, you'd probably have an office of people who are overwhelmed and can't get to everyone and service the clients properly. I would call us a medium-sized firm. We're in the middle. And the way we divide things up is we assign a lawyer and a case manager and a paralegal to each of the cases, so every single case is getting adequate attention. What makes us different than other firms is we're real trial lawyers that are really going to handle your case the way a lawyer who might end up in court on your case would. Now, that's not to say every case is going to end up in court, because the vast majority of cases, especially if they're prepared properly, do settle. But it is important to have lawyers with a track record, and lawyers that actually try cases, and lawyers that are known to the insurance companies and the defense as willing to go to trial on your case to get the top value. During your initial consultation for a trucking accident, you should expect at our firm to hear some of the following questions. We're going to want to know where it happened, how it happened, and when it happened. And we're going to be asking you very specific things, such as what photographs you've taken. We also may want to send out a videographer with a drone so we can actually get up in the air and document what exactly that intersection or roadway looked like. We're also going to probably be asking you questions about the truck. And in all likelihood, we're going to want to send someone out to inspect that truck, photograph that truck, and download information from that truck right away. There's a whole lot of evidence we want to preserve from the get-go.